In Matthew chapter 16, Jesus asks the apostles, "Who do people say that I am?" He gets a few answers, and then he asks, "Who do you say that I am?" Peter proclaims Jesus to be the Son of the living God. And then Jesus says that upon this rock I will build my church. I give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind shall be bound. Whatever you loose shall be loose. Catholic teaching makes the claim that Peter is the rock on which Jesus was going to build his church, and by giving him these keys with this authority, it clearly sets Peter apart from the other apostles and identifies him as the first pope. Opposition to this teaching, non-Catholic resources identify that it is Peter's profession of faith that Jesus is going to build his church upon, and so as long as you or I share that same profession of faith, the keys are as much ours as they are his. When I was in biblical school, we were studying the Old Testament, we were studying the Davidic kingdom, and we learned the vital role of the prime minister. Now, when the king did not have an heir, or when the king's heir was not at an appropriate age to make kingly decisions in the king's absence, the prime minister was vital in that absence. When the king went away, it was still a kingdom, so the people didn't just do whatever they wanted in the king's absence. And so the prime minister was a vital office in the Old Testament Davidic kingdom. In 2 Samuel 11, we read how it's in the spring that kings went out to war. I've got nothing but love, respect, and appreciation for our armed forces. My hat is off, past, present, and future. I've never served in the military. I've never been in a war. I can still reason, though, that when kings and soldiers show up to the battlefield, they don't exactly coordinate with the enemy on how we're going to do this. It's not like they can show up, check their watch, and say, all right, it's getting close to 8, let's get this battle started. Maybe we can wrap up around 5, make it home in time for dinner, and if we're not resolved, we can resume tomorrow. That's not the way war works. When kings went out to battle, they could be gone for days, weeks, months. There's even stories of kings being on crusades for years. In Isaiah chapter 22, we learn about Shebna. Shebna, in one of the translations of the Bible that I've read, clearly identifies him as the prime minister. In other translations, he's the one in charge of the royal household. He is the steward of the kingdom, the master of the palace. And this is kind of interesting because he has these authoritative titles that would be appropriate for a king. A king is the authority master of the palace, the one in charge over the royal household and over the kingdom. So for him not to be a king but still have these authoritative titles, it's pretty interesting. What's also interesting is that during this time, King Hezekiah is ill, so he's not tending to the king's business. Shebna is supposed to be this prime minister, and he's supposed to be tending to the people's needs in the kingdom, and instead he's over here digging out a really fancy grave for himself. And so Isaiah shows up explaining to him that he is going to be taken out of his office, his authority is going to be given to another. He talks about Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, who's going to be called. He's going to be given the key to the city of David, and whatever he opens, none shall shut, and whatever he shuts, none shall open. So from here, we realize that the prime minister is an office, and it has an authoritative role in the king's absence. We also learn that this office can be succeeded to somebody else. Fast forward. We're in biblical school. We're studying the New Testament now. We're studying the Gospels. And we're in Matthew 16. I have independently studied the Catholic apologetics, so I am overly familiar with the key to the city of David and the keys to the kingdom. bind and loose, shut and close, open remains open. I'm far too familiar with all of this, so I kind of gloss over it. And I don't know how many times I've read this. I can't tell you how many times I've read this, but here I am glossing over it, and I get to the next segment after this when it is said that from this time on, Jesus began to tell his disciples about his passion, death, and resurrection. And so there was my light bulb moment. Jesus identified his master of the palace. Jesus identified his steward of the royal household. So when the king identified the prime minister, the king can now prepare his people for the king's departure. Have a happy and safe 4th of July, and check back here when I'm able to share more of these stories like this, or get notified. Meanwhile, happy and safe 4th to everybody. God bless you all.